Hi everyone, how's everyone doing here today? Thank you for watching. And there was some little thing I saw on independent media about a month ago. I didn't get a chance to talk about it back then, but it was a little exchange that occurred on Twitter that led to a meetup whereby a UFC fighter, a fighter who was Jewish, made some criticisms against Nick Fuentes, who, as you know, is a white supremacist who runs his own platform called America First. And surprisingly, with all his rhetoric, he has a lot of followers and everything. Well, this one particular fan of his, I don't know his name. If I did, I wouldn't use it, just to be respectful. Let's regard to him as John Doe. John Doe, who allegedly is a white supremacist, actually got into an exchange with this UFC fighter and offered to meet him, to challenge him to this kind of fight, to defend the honor of Nick Fuentes. And I don't know how far he traveled or where exactly, but the two actually met, and he was a decent-sized guy. He wasn't like Mr. Olympia, and he claimed he had some martial arts experience. And when they talked briefly, suddenly it wasn't as confrontational as you would imagine the conversation would have been. In fact, he seemed a little like, it's a lot different when you're attacking someone on Twitter and then you're meeting them face to face. Eventually, they too did do it out in the ring and everything. I guess he had to sign a waiver, in case he got seriously injured, that, there's no liability or anything like that. And the UFC fighter stood up, was actually able to take him down. He didn't do it in really hostile way. They wore padded gloves and everything. And the punches were mild because, again, it was meant to see, who was better than who in the ring without doing too much damage. And eventually, John Doe, finally said, I can't do it. I can't beat this guy. One of the things they talked about before, because Nick Fuentes is a Holocaust denier, so naturally this guy had doubts about the Jews. He wasn't so much a denier per se, but like, for example, historically 6 million Jews were murdered by the Nazis. He felt maybe that number was a little less. I mean, for argument's sake, so let's say it was only half that amount or a third that amount. There's still a lot of Jews to just murder for the sake of an authoritarian leader. A fascist, for starters. So then, he finally saw the light of day and said, okay, maybe I was a little wrong. Maybe this guy isn't so bad after all. Referring to the UFC fighter. Here's the problem I have with this little exchange and everything. It boiled down to the simple, primitive thinking that might is right. That, if you're talking with someone about someone and you disagree, it sometimes, rather than try and see eye to eye or understand what the other person's thinking, or thinking like, hey, this guy's bringing up facts and evidence, so it makes sense. It's like, no, I gotta raise a fist and then show you who's boss. That makes me right. But that's not the case, okay? What would I say to John Doe? For starters, honestly, why did you feel the need to go down and meet someone that you didn't even know, that you only had a brief exchange with on Twitter, so you're only just fairly acquainted with? Why'd you feel the need to defend Nick Fuentes' honor? I mean, Fuentes is an adult. I think he can take care of himself, or he can handle a few criticisms from people who don't follow him. Maybe I'm wrong. The other thing I would say to him is, let's be real here. Nick Fuentes has said some pretty racist and hateful things, as if being a denier of the Holocaust wasn't enough. But let's say I go to a bar and I'm there to meet a bunch of friends. I'm sitting by the bar and somebody I don't know just approaches me and says, it's a little slow here. Do you mind if we chat? And I'd be like, sure, why not? My name's Chris. Your name's blah, blah, blah. And during the course of the conversation, he would say things along the lines like, I had to write some of this stuff down. Feels like we need a white uprising and get rid of Congress, and put Donald Trump in president for life and never have elections again. Donald Trump is not going to live forever. He's considerably old, so that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. He thinks dating a woman makes you gay, to which in the back of my mind I'm thinking, you did take Basic Health Class 101, right? You familiar with the difference between homosexuality and heterosexuality and bisexuality? Banning contraceptive, gay marriage, and have Taliban rule, to which I'd be polite, I wouldn't say anything nasty, but in the back of my mind I'd be thinking like, what's this guy talking about? that we're a godless country. Well, that I would definitely agree, even though I'm not a highly religious person. And the last one. This is my... Send the military to black neighborhoods to make them safe again and go back to Jim Crow times. To which at that point, I would fake it and pull out my phone and be like, oh, my friends are here. I gotta go. Look, it was nice talking to you. You know, it's nice having a drink with you. Have a good day. And maybe go to some part of the bar or place that I'm in where I can't be seen, or just wait outside and think to myself, what is that guy is a friggin' lunatic. That's what I would say to John Doe. I'd be like, do you honestly listen to this stuff and really believe it? I mean, if you do, you do. You're free to believe and support who you want, but, you know, sometimes you gotta accept certain realities. But I'm not trying to get off topic here, and it's that many people, especially on the right, since I've been talking about political violence, go in with the mentality that, you know, if somebody disagrees with you or criticizes, you know, somebody that you support on the right, whether it's Fuentes, Trump, or anybody else, whether they're not a part of the MAGA crowd, it has a tendency to escalate to violence. And I'm not saying that people on the left can't be violent too, but what does that prove, okay? That doesn't make you better, that doesn't make you smarter, that doesn't automatically assume you're right. Just because you're physically stronger or that you can overpower someone, you know, doesn't make you right. During that fight between John Doe and his UFC fighter, what if John Doe won? Then he'd go back to thinking, see, I took him down. I stood up for Nick Fuentes' honor. You know, the Holocaust was a hoax and everything, stuff like that. That would just reinforce his beliefs, or maybe even cause it to escalate. I don't know how far he believes in the things that Nick Fuentes says, you know, but it boils down to the point that why not have a civil debate, you know? Why even go down there to begin with? Just to give you a better example, sometimes I get into little discussions with some of the things I post. And yeah, sometimes I get some pretty nasty remarks from time to time, but I try not to stoop down to their level, you know. There are certain politicians that I support, but guess what? They get a lot of criticism sometimes. I hear nasty things being said about them. At no time did I ever think, hey, I gotta go down there and meet that person and show them. Sometimes I've spoken in their defense, but I try and use logic and evidence rather than just nasty words. And even responding kind to de-escalate, that sometimes actually neutralizes their hatred. It's like, wow, I just said some vile remarks to this guy and he's being nice to me. I don't get it. It kind of throws them off psychologically. But again, and it's not that I'm a menacing guy. Let me put it to you hypothetically. Let's say I had the physique and size of the Mountain from Game of Thrones. You never watched Game of Thrones? Just Google G-O-T, the Mountain. You'll see what I'm talking about. If you get the actor's name, he is a really big guy. Let's say I had that size and physique and I was at home, and then there's a knock on the door and I go there and there's this skinny, wimpy little guy. Whoops, pardon some of the background noise. Anyhow, he's there wearing a MAGA hat saying, I'm here to collect donations for Donald Trump, and to which I would politely say, no thank you, I do not support that candidate, you know. And he might get a little standoffish with me. Well, why? Don't you believe in this and that? I would actually not be like, oh, how dare you come to my house and I'll show you Donald Trump this. No, I'd just be like, I don't support him because of this, that, and the other thing, and, you know. And I would even say, hey, I respect what you're doing, but, you know, I'm not the person you should be talking to, and just say, have a good day, and close the door politely. Keep it as gentlemen. Because if you're going to raise a fist every time you're going to make a point that goes to say something about you or about the people that you support and everything, why not have a civil discussion? Why not being based on evidence? And guess what? You could do that, and in the end, the person that you're talking to or people may not agree with you. So what can you do? But there's no reason to escalate it to violence, and there's certainly no reason to go travel far away to meet people that you don't even know just because they criticize somebody that you like. So that's all I'm saying. Might does not always equal right. Sometimes it's just the opposite. So anyway, it's getting a little noisy out here. Thank you for watching. I really hope you understand.